Good morning and welcome to a Your Lurgan podcast on this weekend when we commemorate, pay tribute, if you like, and also reflect on the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Big impact here in Lurgan for many people, and of course, an impact for many more listening and watching. My name is Donald McCone.
And I'm Michael Scott.
And that's indeed where our stories of the week begin, Michael. Reflections on the various aspects of that and its impact on the people of Lurgan. I suppose that's not completely the core of the story, but it is more important than other aspects that we come to report this week.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's probably the biggest story in the world at the minute, let's be honest. And, even though I suppose we all know it comes to us at some point in time in our lives, the death of Queen Elizabeth was still a massive shock to us all. I mean, I remember on Thursday, I'd actually been in Newry that afternoon and I'd driven home and I was getting messages through to my phone looking to know would the football be off on Saturday, and I said, what are you talking about? And I said, what's this all about? Put the TV on. And obviously at that stage, there was concerns over the Queen's health. So that was the start of what was to become a very long news day. Because obviously then we had announcements to keep an eye on. We had updates to provide. Because obviously I was working across not just Your Lurgan, but the rest of the papers in the group as well to try and keep the websites up to date. And there was still just that great shock whenever the news came through. That was, you could almost sense it was coming because of what was being said in the TV and what had been going on. The fact that even the newsreaders were all dressed in black already. But from our point of view, I suppose in Your Lurgan, what we've been doing is gathering the local reaction and trying to find out what is happening locally to commemorate the life of the Queen, and of course the ascendancy of Charles to the throne as well. So pretty much almost immediately after the Queen had died, the tribute started coming in from local MLAs, from sporting clubs as well, members of the public, all just wanted to say thank you to the Queen for the service she had given.
It almost seems it was just a few months ago we were celebrating her Diamond Jubilee very actively here in this kind of part of the world.
Platinum Jubilee, Donna, it's a lot more than that.
Yeah. Platinum Jubilee, indeed. Yeah. 70 odd years.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. Obviously there's been a lot said in social media, and we'll not go into that too much because some of the things that have been said in social media have been distasteful. People obviously have their own views on the Queen, and that's on the British monarchy and whatever else, that's up to them. At the end of the day, this is a woman who was 96 years of age, worked pretty much every day of her life, no matter what way you see it. That's what she did. She was still a mother, a grandmother, a wife, a great grandmother as well. And I suppose that's probably why it sort of resonated with a lot of people, because it was almost like your granny, Dan. That's almost how it felt to a lot of people. Because everybody seemed to know her. Everyone seemed to have that connection with her. She's been around for that long. There have a great change, obviously, now. Even our things like our stamps and our coins and our banknotes and things like that are going to change over the next while. So yeah, it's one of those stories that I always knew I'd probably have to report on at some stage, but never knew. I never actually believed that I would ever have to report on it, if you know what I mean. It's very surreal.
I worked for the BBC, Michael, in the 90s, 97 in particular, 99 in particular. I'm trying to remember. Queen Diana's, is it 97?
97, August 97.
September 1st. And as part of the presentation roles on during that time, I had to present the lead up. This was in local radio, the lead up to the coverage from national radio. But I do know that there was a whole procedure before that. of what you do in the event of a royal death. And there was also a tier of what you did, the further down that chain of command, as it were, you did less in terms of public broadcasting, and the highest one was on the passing of Her Majesty, where they laid out what the procedure was, the music that you played or didn't play, going over to the national broadcaster and leaving them to take and run over it. It was a smoothly orchestrated and organized situation. So I kind of lived in one sense through that. I suppose we all did if we were around in 97. This time around, it's just even more remarkable to see how particularly the BBC fall into line and into the procedure, as you say, wearing the black suits and the tie. We didn't have to do that in radio, of course, but it was very interesting. And what has been interesting too, Mike, although it's maybe less reflective here, is what they've been saying in the Irish media and what's been going on there and how they've delivered this kind of set of circumstances. And to be said with great respect, great and deep respect. And I mean, the Queen's visits to this part of the world are what they've been on. Not so much, well, Northern Ireland, of course, but in Southern Ireland, to Dublin and to Cork and all sorts of places. What about her visits to Lurgan? Were you able to report on those? They weren't so frequent, if at all. Did she come to the borough? Yes, maybe not.
I'm not aware of any visits to Lurgan, to be quite honest. I could be wrong. I've tried to find out.
I think you're correct. More to the borough that she came to perhaps to Armagh many years ago.
Oh, she came to Armagh many times. I'm trying to think the most recent time would have been. Of course, she was actually due to be in Armagh last year for the service to commemorate Northern Ireland's centenary, which actually I was at. But unfortunately, she couldn't make it. That was when actually she had taken ill just days beforehand. There had been a bit of controversy as well, of course, around her attendance and well, not just politicians being politicians, let's just say. But we ended up she didn't come due to her ill health, and unfortunately since then it never really increased. We saw less and less of her from then, and of course now we'll never see her again, unfortunately. But no, you made a point there about the Irish media and how they've been covering it, and I think actually we'll have to say as well, there have been tributes coming in from the SDLP and Sinn Féin, and they've been very, very respectful. A lot of what's been said by, let's say, senior figures within the Nationalist Republican side of our divide in this country, shall we say, have been very respectful. But I suppose at the end of the day, like I said earlier on, she was more than just the Queen of the British monarchy. She was a mother. She did a lot as well. Let's be honest on it. To try and push the message of peace during the Troubles. Like the handshake with Martin McGuinness will forever go down and be talked about as one of the most historic moments in the history of this island. So yeah, there's a lot of respect coming that way, and that's good to see.
What about locals who have met her? Have you been able to catch up with any of those stories? There would have been lots of people with who'd been awarded perhaps medals or distinguished kind of messages in her birthday honours lists and stuff like that.
Well, we haven't yet done it, but we are hoping to have some tributes throughout the week from people who did meet her. I suppose the thing that's come across over the last week, and I'm sure we'll hear this now when we get talking to those who have met her, is that she was a warm, kind person, great sense of humor. We've heard that a lot over the last few days in the TV coverage and in the print coverage as well, and I would expect to hear more of the same as well. But we hope to get speaking to a few of those people. In fact, if you're listening to this podcast and you met the Queen, please do get in touch with us. We'd love to have a chat with you and share your memories. Drop me an email, info@yourlurgan.com.
Well, it's a story that's going to be around, Michael, for at least a week, if not more. I think the funeral hasn't been decided just yet, has it?
No details at the moment as we speak. Of course, by the time we put this out, it could be confirmed. But the speculation, the way things are going at the moment, it could be possibly next Monday. Next Monday, we're talking about a funeral. There are going to be events coming up in the meantime. For example, if you're listening to this on Sunday, there's an event going on in Armagh. The proclamation of the new king, and there will also be tributes to the Queen within that as well. I think that's at 4:00 in the Palace Domain in Armagh, but that's for the whole county. If you've maybe caught the events that are happening on Saturday morning, proclamation of the king, it's the same sort of idea, except he's not going to be there. There'll be a proclamation led by the Lord Mayor and the county sheriff. So that'll be happening. Plus, there's books of condolences, of course, open. I think in Lurgan there's one in the town hall, and then Craigavon Civic Centre as well, where you can also leave floral tributes. And what else was there? Oh yes, a special meeting of the council as well, which is being held on a Sunday evening. That's the first time I can remember a council meeting being held on at 6:30 on a Sunday. You can watch that live on their YouTube channel, and of course
is that this evening after we go out?
Yes, Sunday evening. Yep, Sunday evening. So we'll have reports on that on Monday, I'd imagine. So keep an eye out for that as well.
The story leads into our next story, Michael, very much because the implications of the passing bounced into seems to have affected what our biggest story would have been, the ongoing strike with the workers for ABC Council, who have been in a long and not quite but almost a protracted kind of striking situation. And there seems to have been some movement on that, and completely because of the passing of
yeah, I'm not sure if I think the position still is that they are on strike. I don't think the position has improved any on that front, really. But we do know that the unions have agreed to allow workers to carry out what they called essential work in the town centres, to basically tidy the place up a bit, to allow, I suppose it's in respect of the Queen and for acts of memorials and stuff like that. I really don't know the exact background. Of course, the news came out about 10 to 6 on Friday evening, which, is a bad time for anybody, because it's the start of the weekend. So we don't really know exactly what's been going on or what the plans are. But also, I suspect part of that will have been because of the event that's happening in Armagh on Sunday, to make sure the place is clean and tidy for that. Now, there has been a bit of criticism of the unions. Of course, this will sort of, if you go back actually a wee bit further, as far as Thursday evening, we learned that there was also due to be a strike in the Lisburn Castlereagh borough, similar sort of situation to ABC. That was postponed by the union, so that led us to ask the question, well, is the strike going to be postponed here? It's currently ongoing. We noticed that in certain locations around the borough, where there had been strike action, that flags had been taken down from the unions, as well as strikers not appearing on picket lines. So we wondered, had there been some movement? It doesn't appear that the strikes are off at all. And there has been a bit of criticism online of the union seemingly agreeing to this, from people who were supporting the strike, because they're saying, well, a strike's a strike. Why would what's the benefit of this, to their point? But I suppose it's a gesture of goodwill more than anything else.
It's also happening, and not just, as you say, in Lisburn and other districts. It's actually happening throughout the United Kingdom. The railway folks have pulled back on their strike or suggested strikes, and there are others who are doing the same. Postal workers and
workers, yeah.
So it's not as if it's just here in Northern Ireland or just here in the ABC Council. So they're kind of, I suppose, you're going to be judged either way, of course. They're doing what they seem, or some of them are seem to say, is just a courtesy to the passing.
Yeah. I suppose we should really point out again, the strike, as far as we know, it's still on. It will go into a fifth week come Monday. It's this temporary sort of, I don't even want to call it a break, because it's not really a break, is only going to last this weekend, as far as I understand. and should see a full resumption, if you like, of the strike come Monday morning.
And on that, well, you may be going to say, Michael, on that point, some of the negotiations seem to have entered the public domain.
That's right. On, I think it was Wednesday. It's been a long week. I can't remember. On Wednesday, we had news that the council had released details of some of what they had offered to the workers in the latest round of negotiations, and that included an £1,800 one-off fee. Was it a pay rise for members of staff of £1,900 approximately, plus an agreement that they would bring all the workers who were obviously in previous councils. So obviously with the issue where, for example, I'm not saying this is exactly the case, but say, for example, a worker who previously worked in Banbridge Council was maybe being paid less than a worker who previously worked in the old legacy Craigavon Council. They were going to bring that all together. I think there has been an agreement on that. But this apparently, now according to the council, was not agreed by the unions. Now, that was on Wednesday, heading into the tail end of the fourth week of the strike. We also had word from Unison that they were going to take action indefinitely, due to the fact that there was no agreement. So really where we're at now is we are no further forward. Basically, bins still need emptied, streets still need cleaned, although, well, I suppose now we might see a bit of that happening over the course of the weekend.
So what's your take on this idea of hearing from the council side of things, almost negotiation by billboard, if you like? That's what it looks like to me. Is that how you see that as well? They're trying to maybe perhaps tease out more support on the kind of the public side of things.
Possibly. I don't want to say that's definitely the case because we don't know, to be quite honest. I would imagine they want to keep their ratepayers informed as to what's going on. Of course, this was the details were also shared to workers in a letter by the chief executive as well, Roger Wilson. But he also the council made this public in a statement to the press as well. So yeah, there possibly is an element of that. But I suppose as well, they also need to let their ratepayers know, like, this is what we have offered our workers. They haven't come back to work, and we apologise for that, but we're trying our best to resolve this. The unions, I suppose, have their own position. They want to get the best deal for the people they represent. So they're entitled, as they are at the minute, to stand their feet in the ground and say, nope, we're not taking that. But either way, who's left in the middle? People like me and you who need our bins emptied, who see the mess that there is in our town centres and at the likes of the side of the road. The fly tipping that's going on is incredible at the minute, and Joe Blogs in the street just wants this resolved now, I think, and wants to get this sorted out, because there's going to be, but we talked about this before, Don. I mean, we're talking about rats and we're talking about vermin running around the streets. Nobody wants to live in that. Nobody wants that situation. So the sooner it's resolved, the better now, I think, for everybody.
Well, absolutely. I don't think anybody wants to live in that limbo, as it were. There are other things going on. I know that. I do see people out and about and do that. I think our next story we're going to kind of look at is what happened last weekend, and we kind of put it out there during the week. This was JoeFest, as I call it, Fa JoeFest, because it was up in Fa Joe's. Great day, I have to say, and we kind of reflected that. Really was, a bunch of people getting out to enjoy a collection of music that was really good, in a pub situation, albeit. I'd love to see a bigger fest in a bigger location. Of course, we do have the Master McGrath one that's coming up next year, but there's definitely scope for a bigger festival or two in Lurgan. That was my taking over. Let's have a quick look at the report, and then we'll come back and talk some more.
The music carries on. Now, the beat has been a part of humanity since the first heartbeat of the first human. And once in a while...
I'm Deputy Boo and I'm the photographer for today.
So you got the fancy camera, you've been flashing away. You've been taking photographs for years upon years, haven't you?
Yeah, well, not that long, probably about 10 years, but I worked really, really hard and I've progressed really quickly, and yeah, I'm a professional photographer now.
And we see your shoots at different festivals. This is another festival. First time you've taken photographs at this one?
No, I actually took them informally at the last one before COVID, but I was asked to this time.
So what are you looking for in a good camera shot for this event?
It's about composition and people enjoying themselves, people having fun, and just getting the right shot, really, just being there and getting the right shot.
And it must be tempting to take lots and lots of photographs, or the opposite, to take pictures of Richard Dubou, who's right in the middle of your kind of story too. Is that hard or easy?
I do take a lot of pictures of Richard, so that happens.
And you'll be taking some more of his dancing tonight too. He's kind of keen on the dancing.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't help taking pictures of him, so.
Every century or so, a talent comes along that doesn't only say goodbye to ordinary, it tells extraordinary to sod off. And it is a privilege and a genuine honour to introduce our next act. Because in days and weeks and months and years to come, people who aren't here will say, were you there when Zach Matt did his thing? This man, literally, is a wonderful and an extraordinary talent. So I am happy and honoured to step away and make some noise now for Zach Matt! Hey, everyone! The rush sound starts squaring up in the radio.
JoeFest up and going again, 2022, and undoubtedly another one coming up next year. You used to go there, Michael. I know you were just in for Lemonade, of course, but you would have been, if not at the JoeFest, you'd certainly have been in the establishment, so you know it well. And it was easy to get the flavour of the day, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, it's always been a very popular event, JoeFest, and I know a lot of people make a point of calling it at some point along the day because it is on all day, one Saturday in the year. It gets very well supported by the community. And fair play to Jeff and the boys and the girls down there at Fad Joe's for running that. It's a great event, and long may it continue.
They raised something like £2,420 or something around that nature, and half of it went to the Southern Hospice, and the other half went to a Parkinson's disease charity as well. So good money raised. It was there for a purpose. Absolutely,
and it's great to see the people want to get out and support these causes and have a bit of crack at the same time. Let's be honest. I suppose that's really what the main thing is whenever it comes to that.
One of the things we were supposed to be talking about today were the opening weekend for European Heritage Week, and that hasn't taken place now. We probably should have mentioned it when we were talking about the passing of Her Majesty. As a mark of respect, all those tours were at least postponed. We were due to be in Brownlow House. They were having regular tours there. Shankill Graveyard and Parish. That was to happen yesterday and today. And a tour that I run just around Lurgan, and we had to cancel those two. So we got really talk about it, which is a pity because in one way, because there would have been lots to talk about, lots to see, and really great interest in that. But as I say, mark of respect, we weren't able to do that.
Yeah. I believe some of the events still have gone ahead. Not in Lurgan as far as I know, but there are some events that have gone ahead. I'm aware of one in Portadown that's still going ahead. So I suppose if you're watching this on Sunday morning and you want to go to one of those events, maybe just check out before you go to see if it's definitely on. But I know a lot of events around the place have been cancelled. And I suppose that brings us on actually to the next thing we're going to talk about, which is the world of sport. And one of the events, well, the whole of football was basically wiped out on Friday as a mark of respect. The IFA sending a, not so much a dictator or anything like that there, but basically informing clubs that they we're going to basically postpone all football activity right down to grassroots level, right down to kids football, as a mark of respect to the passing of the Queen. That meant Glenavan's game away to Linfield was called off, which might be a blessing in disguise, to be quite honest, but they had to play it again at some point. Mind you, they did get back to winning ways. We can talk about that. There was a match on Tuesday night past. Glenavan played Refriland Rangers in the Mid-Ulster Cup and won 2-1. They had fallen behind very early on, but came back to win 2-1 through goals from Josh Doyle and Connor Scannell. So a good return with a fringe team out as well. Not so, it was players who hadn't really featured for the first team in recent weeks. Gary Hamilton likes to use the Mid-Ulster Cup as a sort of, not so much a breeding ground for youngsters, but also to give those players time to maybe you're sitting on the bench, a chance to get a game as well. Now, we do understand, we haven't had it confirmed at the time of going out, but we understand that Glenavan's game on Tuesday night against Donalstown, big derby in the League Cup, will go ahead. We don't know yet about next Saturday's game against Cliftonville, which is due to be played at Moorview Park. But Your Lurgan, of course, will keep you up to date on that front. The other news that came out of Glenavan on Friday evening, which we reported on Your Lurgan, was the very sad death of one of the club's greatest players, Dennis Guy. He passed away sadly on Friday. Dennis was the club's second top goal scorer, just behind Jimmy Jones, the great Jimmy Jones. He was one of only two players to score 6 goals in a league game, which the only other person who did that actually was Gary Hamilton himself. Gary Hamilton scored 6 for Portadown, I think it was, against Omatown.
George Best did it in a cup match, didn't he? And
over in England, yeah. But
funnily enough, the two Dennis and George were involved in football together to some degree. Certainly not at club level, but at international level. I mean, Dennis got a nod, I think, towards the national side on 1 or 2 occasions.
Yeah. Great player. I mean, before my time.
Not before mine. An idol. There were 2 idols growing up. George obviously was the one that reached the higher status, but because, as I said to you before, going regularly with my father, Dennis Guy was the man. He was the king of the crop. Now, I knew Jimmy Jones. I met Jimmy afterwards many times. Dennis I never met, but I saw Dennis play, and he was an idol. I can see him now. I can see he was quite tall to me. And now the other big heroes of those times was Derek Dugan. Derek would have played for Wolves, as you might remember. Yeah. But Dennis Guy was the man. He was the superstar when there weren't too many superstars to my mind in football. But he certainly he carried my heart with him anytime he played.
I'll not sing the song in the circumstances, but I recall the words to the song that Glam fans used to sing, where "We don't need Eusebio, we've got Dennis Guy." Yeah.
Of that era, wasn't he? Eusebio in the '66 World Cup and Dennis playing thereafter, and that's where my memories of him would have been. I didn't know the song now, but I look forward to hearing it from you on a later occasion. So it's glad to hear of his passing, and our thoughts with all his close family and those friends, and the many fans of Glenavan who will remember him play.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on, the world of Gaelic. You were out on Friday night. Of course, the sporting world does go on in some aspects, and Gaelic Games continues as well. Big weekend in the championship, I believe. Dolly, you were right on
Absolutely.
Friday night
Well,
with Eugene.
Friday night we were able to be local. Unlike the Armagh Championship for men, they don't go to neutral venues for clashes. In fact, the local clash was really between two clubs, and that was St Peter's, the visiting team to Clonagale, and it was played at Clonagale's ground under floodlights. And the reason why they played it there was because it has the floodlights, and they were able to run the floodlights. Eugene was able to chat with the manager and one of, in fact, the captain of the team.
Elated, Eugene, those local derby games are always, potentially sticky wickets. So, we're happy to get the result tonight. Good performance first half. Slightly hard to get up for the second half, but listen, we dominated the game and done what we had to do. So happy enough. Yep.
Yeah, I know the Gaelic football in Lurgan is really thriving at the minute. The clans aren't that overly long on the go. I remember them starting up, but they're going strength to strength at all levels, Paddy, to be fair.
Well, as I say, this team's very, very young. The average age is maybe 21, 22 of them. But listen, they've experienced playing junior championship, came up, won it. They've experienced playing in the Ulster at that level.
Right, good enough.
They've played the first round of the Ulster against the Antrim champions. And, even with the minors coming through, they won the county championship last year, and again played Ulster, played Kinolly in the Ulster. So great experience in that team, albeit they haven't been going that long. So
Angela, you were introduced to the clans by your mum, right? Not right?
Yeah.
Is she still playing?
No, she's not playing. She's managing us now, so she is.
She's one of the managers.
Yeah, well, in training, she likes to play with us. So
Yeah,
she is.
she's a very fit girl,
Yeah,
but how are you enjoying it? There's some fantastic players there, obviously.
Yeah, very good players. Loads of minor girls who play county this year as well. Just a young team, but
Yeah, we're just seeing Clonagale seniors here going out to train for their big match on Sunday against had the thing here is Carcruppen.
yeah.
And of course, Eugene will keep us updated with all the other games that have been going on. He already has reports. He'd like to have 2 or 3 of himself this weekend, because not alone with the ladies' football, all these championship games going on, but the men and the big clashes are happening. It's a big clash today later on for the current Armagh champions, Clonagh, and they play later on in the competition. So we'll hopefully have updates and reports from Eugene throughout today and then over the next couple of days.
Absolutely. I suppose then finally, an interview we're putting out in full on Sunday evening, Donna, a piece you've done with, well, you and Eugene have done, I think, with a bodybuilder.
And I needed some help in that respect. And yes, David Stewart, remarkable. When you see him, he looks a really young man. I mean, he's like myself. He's kind of cut all his hair, he's actually shaved it. And he looks remarkably fit. And he's won a national championship or a Northern Ireland championship in bodybuilding without all the usual stuff that some people will use for bodybuilding. There's a term for it. Without all the additives, as you were, much more honest approach to kind of the bodybuilding. Won that, and Eugene went to see him up at the fitness studio.
Fitness Factory?
The Fitness Factory.
Right,
What a place!
right.
Yeah, you keep me right. What a place it was. So the first that we kind of set up was that. Well, you see it. You'll see it in the video. I'll maybe give that clip of it, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Started about when I was 16, so it is. Just went down. I was down in the dungeon. Red McBride and all were training at the time. My dad brought me down. I was 7 stone, so I was, and I wanted to improve myself. Just wanted to build up, and started training. And I felt when I lifted the weight, just felt Jesus is brilliant. So it is the confidence you get, the feeling you get.
That endorphin shoot up to the head, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it was just a pure adrenaline rush, and how your body changed. So it does. So then,
You're talking about
physically, yeah, and the whole size-wise and the way your muscle would move and different exercises done different things. So it is. And then I studied fitness, I became a personal trainer, and I wanted to do shows, but I wanted to do shows non-enhanced. So it is. Most shows now they're big, massive guys and use certain supplements and stuff, so they do. But I didn't want to go down that road.
So Eugene and I, astride of Davy Stewart, none of us, certainly Eugene and myself, looking like a bodybuilder, in need of building or rebuilding, I'm afraid, both of us. But he was quite the cool man, really nice guy. And we then got a bit of a tour of the factory, as it were. And it always does look like a factory, a gym to me, because it really is hard work for me, just thinking about all the machinery they go on to, all the tough work that they put in. I'm in awe of someone who can do that.
Yeah, Joe, something. I've been down at the gym. I've been going to the gym recently myself, trying to lose a bit of the beef. I've saw myself on some of these podcasts and thought, no, you need to go get back down there, lose a bit of weight. So, it's you see some of the guys that come in and you just look at them and you go, I'm never going to do that. Nor do I really want to do it, to be quite honest. You know, I don't want to be the sort of man who can lift a car over my head. You know, I'm quite happy just to be able to lift the bar up. that's the achievement for me.
Some people say just to lift a pint up at the bar, I think is enough for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really good, and it was really good to see quite a few ladies using the gym as well. It crosses all divides now, whereas before you wouldn't have dreamed of seeing a girl. We're talking 20, maybe 30 years ago, but that's all changed. There's many girls and ladies working in gyms and doing stuff. In fact, probably leading the way with step classes and all sorts of stuff. So it's a lesson to us all. We do need the exercise, particularly old geezers like me, to keep us moving.
Joe, something else as well. No, it's really good actually to get out and do a bit, you know, for your own mental health and things like that as well. Not just your physical sort of health, but your mental health as well. Because I suppose if like Davey, you're out there and you're lifting weights and you can master that another day, I mean, you feel stronger, you know, it's a sense of achievement as well. So I get down your gym, go for a walk, get yourself fit, go on.
Hold on, let's do some press up.
People who are listening to this podcast won't be able to understand what's going on.
No, I suppose not. But I did at least 20 there, so pass no remarks. Yeah, good idea. It's good for the adrenaline rush. It's good for the well, it's not quite the serotonin. Maybe it's the dopamine. Whatever it is, the things you need to do to encourage and bring on your well-being, without doubt. And we talk a little bit about that in the interview. That I think it's just about it, Michael. We're back to the end of our podcast.
We are. Of course, any updates in terms of what's happening locally, in terms of the commemorations to Her Majesty the Queen, they'll all be on Your Lurgan over the coming days. So keep an eye on that, and of course, updates on the strike as well. Once we get them. It's been a busy few days, put it like that there. I don't think it's going to slacken anytime over the next week. But yeah, it's and of course, obviously those are two big stories. There are other stories as well happening at the minute. I know certainly on the news, in the main national news you might watch, it might be lack of coverage of the Queen's death, but we recognise as well, you know, there's other stuff going on. So we will have other stories going on throughout the week, which you'll be able to see on Your Lurgan, and hopefully we've given you a flavour of what we've done over the past week in this podcast as well. But just to say as well, if you do have any other stories you'd like to see us comment on, feel free to get in touch, info@yourlurgan.com, or send us a message on send us a private message on social media. That's what I'm trying to say. Of course, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn.
And that's it from us for this week. Thank you very much for watching, listening. Subscribe if you haven't already to our YouTube channel. Also subscribe to our Anchor podcast. They're available on Spotify and elsewhere. We're available just about everywhere. All we're missing.
You cannot miss Your Lurgan. We're everywhere.
All we're missing is you. And we can't really say we're missing you, because if you're hearing that, you aren't the you we're trying to reach out to. You're already here. Thank you for that. I'm Don McCone.
And I'm Michael Scott.
Thank you for watching, listening.
Good night.